What's going on YouTube? This is BXMama718 back at you with another video review. And today I have the Alienware m17 R5. Now, I had high hopes for this machine and it let me down. But let's go ahead and try to be as objective as possible with this. At first, let's go over the specs, all right? First and foremost, this has a 17.3-inch UHD 3080/40 by 2160 120 Hz non-touch 3 millisecond Smart Access Graphics AMD FreeSync Comfort View Plus display. It also has a MediaTek Wi-Fi 6 MT7921 with a Bluetooth 5.2 Wi-Fi adapter. It has a 1TB M.2 PCIe NVMe SSD drive. It also has the Alienware Cherry MX Ultra Low Profile mechanical keyboard with per key Alien FX RGB. Comes with 32 gigabytes of DDR5 4800 megahertz. In regards to RAM, it comes with a 97 watt-hour 6-cell battery. It comes with the AMD Ryzen 9 6900HX, which is the 8-core, 16-thread, 20 megabyte cache, and up to 4.9 gigahertz max boost. It also comes with a AMD Radeon RX 6850M XT, 12 gigabytes of GDDR6. Okay, so I'm gonna try to be objective and try to go through this as much as possible. I'm gonna go into the pros and cons, and then touch on a little bit about the hardware and a little bit about the software in regards to my experience. And you can be the judge for yourself, all right? So let's start off on a positive note. I'm gonna start with the pros, okay? First and foremost, this has an excellent 4K display, 120 Hertz, fast refresh rate. I mean, it is creme de la creme, right? It's an excellent display, very vibrant, and didn't have any issues with it in any way, shape, or form. So I actually do like the display, all right? Now, the display itself, there's no flex, right? So if you try to flex on the back of it, there's no flex, right? Let me show you. There's no flex. However, there's another issue, but I'll get into that when I get into the cons, all right? The keyboard is wonderful, excellent Cherry MX keyboard, great response, doesn't bottom out, very responsive. Good depth of travel, 1.8 millimeters, etc. Love the keyboard, all right? The battery life is excellent. I got 6+ hours. I got 6 to 8 hours of battery life on this thing. And if you make some tweaks, you can get near 8 hours, which I think is phenomenal for something this huge, this power hungry, right? So you have to tweak a couple of things, such as turn the brightness down about 40%. Also turn the keyboard off, backlight off on the keyboard. Put it on the quiet mode, not battery saver, quiet mode, right? And then we want to use the hybrid AMD Radeon hybrid where the integrated graphics are running. And if you're just doing productivity tasks and you're not pinging the dedicated GPU, you can definitely get extended battery life on this, all right? So no problems with that. GPU performance is phenomenal, but I'm going to get into the caveat, right? GPU performance is phenomenal, but there's a caveat, right? The build itself was almost plain vanilla build of Windows 11. There was like no bloatware on it, third-party bloatware. Keep that in mind. No third-party bloatware, no McAfee, no Norton, no anything like that. I was really happy to see that, right? Great. Also, there's a BIOS update that when I got it, I updated it. And what it did was the USB Type-C port on the back, which I'm going to show you around the device shortly. It was upgraded to USB 4, which I thought was excellent. I said, wow, this is great. Awesome. Also, the trackpad is nice and spacious. It's centered. It's responsive. Great tactile clicks. No issues with that, right? Cooling and temperatures can be controlled, but there's a caveat, but it can be controlled, right? And if you put the fans to 100% when you're gaming or doing anything high intensive, the cooling system keeps everything in the low 80s, which I appreciate, and sometimes tinkering on 70s, 80s, right? So really good. I can't even complain about that. I think that's awesome. Lastly, the accessories. So there's two accessories, right? Here is the mouse that I bought to go with it, and here is the headset, okay? All right, now these are some phenomenal accessories. The mouse tracks well. It's greatly contoured for your hand. It clicks good. It glides across anything that you put it on. No complaints. The headset also phenomenal. The Dolby Atmos works perfectly. You get good soundscape, spatial audio, great bass and treble. I mean, that is a phenomenal headset. It's light It has padded cushions on the ear cups and on the headband. Excellent, excellent accessories. I mean, phenomenal accessories. Also, I got the backpack that's over here. And that backpack also very sturdy, very solid build, no loose threads. Excellent, right? So accessory-wise, no complaints, okay? Now let me get into some of the cons, all right? Now, upon purchasing this, I knew it would be heavy, and it is 7.5 pounds. Now, yes, it's heavy. I played around a little bit, but when I put it in the backpack and I put everything in it and I was wearing the backpack, I'm like, wow, this is heavy. So I kind of felt the heft, and it was kind of troublesome, but I was like, okay, maybe I can get away with it, but it is heavy. So this, I'm not even going to beat around the bush. It's heavy. Also, you notice when I try to show you that there's zero flex, well, there's a ton of creaking. I mean, this entire lid creaks, and it's very disturbing. It creaks and it's very disturbing. I don't know why. It seems like the actual lid itself is not entirely flush onto the panel, the display panel, and that could be why there's a gap that's causing that. And it sounds like it's creaking the actual panel, and that is disturbing. And over time, I don't know how well that will hold up. Okay. This also has no numpad, which is no excuse not to have a numpad. The GT77, which will be a competitor to this, has a numpad with the Cherry MX keyboard. There's no excuse for that, but there's no numpad. Okay, I knew that going in, but it really does hinder my productivity, right? But you may not care, but to each his own. However, I do like the fact that without the numpad, it has centered the trackpad, which is great. Okay, now some other things is concerning. The Wi-Fi adapter in here. Okay, plugged in, it's fine. Once you unplug it, it degrades like tremendously, meaning that when it's plugged in, all the way where I'm at, upstairs in my house, my router's downstairs, I was getting about 7 megabytes per second in regards to transfer rate, download rate, whatever. And when I unplugged it, it jumped down to 2.5. And it didn't matter what profile I put it in, that's the results. Terrible performance on battery, just so you know. Also, the laptop itself lags and the quality and performance degrades when it's on battery. I don't know what it is. I chose every setting that there is in Alienware Command Center, and I can't even show you Alienware Command Center fully, but we're going to get into that in a second. But no matter what profile you put it on, when it's untethered from power, the quality degrades. I'm talking about you see lag, you feel lag, you experience lag. That is concerning, okay? Also, I had an issue where when it was unplugged and I shut the computer down and powered it back on, at random times it would come to a complete black screen, blank screen. It would load up Alienware and then show a blank screen. That's it. I'm like, what's going on? And then it would reboot and then boot up normally right into Windows. I don't know what's causing that. I don't know why that happens. It's very, very disturbing. Also, there's something in here that's like a dynamic muck switch. So what does that mean? Well, that caught me off guard when I first used it until I realized that I saw somebody preview or review the laptop online, and I realized what it was. So in the AMD Adrenalin software, there's a feature there where you can activate the dynamic muck switch. And pretty much what that means is that you can activate the muck switch on a 6850 MXT to directly output to the display without a reboot. However, because it's dynamic and it's not manual, meaning that you cannot manually set that, it happens automatically. Now, to this credit, it is smart, so it can discern if I'm web browsing not to turn it on, doing office work not to turn it on. Anything that does not make any OpenGL, DirectX 12, or any other calls like that, or pings the GPU, it knows it. But the moment you try to do benchmarks or gaming, it pauses or delays, it freezes for at least 5 seconds, and then jumps you back to action. The reason why that disturbed me a lot is because when you're doing benchmarking and you want the benchmarking to start immediately, if it doesn't activate or detect that the actual application when it's launched is an app that wants to use the GPU and you start the benchmarking, it will dynamically switch to the benchmarking while you're using it. Very disturbing. But after a while, I got used to it. And I guess it grew on me, so I have little mixed feelings on that. But there's no manual mux switch at all. Now, you can turn that off and just simply use the integrated, or you can turn it off and just have the dedicated GPU render and then pass along to the integrated to output, right? You have that option, but that dynamic mux switch threw me off. There's no SD card slot on here, but that's me. The fans are extremely loud at max speeds, which is to be expected, but it is loud. I'm talking about takeoff loud, right? Also, there was random audio static when it was on battery. I don't know why that happened. I rebooted and it kept happening. I don't know if that was because the CPU is throttled down tremendously, where it can account for the performance, right? The bad performance. But when I tried to reinstall it, the Realtek audio driver, no audio happened after that. Everything was properly configured. I got no sound, no matter what I did. I was very distraught and I did not know what was going on, and it was extremely disturbing. Okay. So I don't know what that was. Also, when I tried to install the AMD Radeon graphics driver, the stock driver from the Dell website for the device, it gave me an error message and it would not install no matter what. Even after I did a fresh install, I reset the computer, did a fresh install, it would not install its own Dell stock driver. Fortunately enough, I was able to get the driver from the AMD website, download the driver from the AMD website, and install it on top of whatever stock driver it was using, and it worked fine, right? But that's concerning. Why did that happen? I don't know. I have no clue, all right? So let me show you around the device. Right now, I have a 4K trailer of Black Adam playing. And again, the screen is great. I have no complaints about that, but let me show you around the device. I'm going to show you some benchmark scores. I'm going to give you some overall hardware, software points, and then I'm closing this out, okay? So let's take a look around the device, okay? All right, on the right side, we have two USB Type A ports. We have a vent over here, and we have a vent for the speaker over here. All right, on the back of the device, we have a USB Type-C port that has been upgraded to USB 4. We have a Type A port, an HDMI 2.1 port, and you have your power input, okay? And it comes with a 240 watt power brick, okay? On the left side, you have a 2.5 gigabit per second LAN port, and you have a headset jack, okay? And then you have another vent, and then you have another vent here for speakers, okay? On the front, there's nothing, and this is what it looks like. Right here, you have the 1.7, and then you have the Alienware head, and this right here lights up RGB, and you can customize it, okay? On the back, there's also a ring light, and you can customize it, and there's two large vents, okay? On the bottom is, let me show it to you. On the bottom, there's two long rows of feet, rubber feet, which I think is great. It gives it great stability, so I'll give it that. And then you have this venting system all across here, which I think is cool, right? This is the Legend 2.0 styling, okay? So that's the ports. All right. Also, what I do like, the fact that it's not bad in regards to repelling fingerprints. You do have to wipe it down, but it holds up very well against that. And let's go back into it. Okay, next up is the benchmark scores, so we can kind of gauge performance. First up is the 3D Mark Demo Time Spy, and it scores 11,669 points. The graphics score is 11,924 points, and the CPU score is 10,412 points, okay? All right. Cinebench R23, we got 13,757 points for the multi-core and 1,428 points for the single core. CPU-Z bench CPU test, we got 610.4 for the CPU single thread, And we got 6115.5 for the CPU multi-thread. All right, Furmark version 1.31.0.0. We have a score of 11,224 points. We have a Passmark rating score of 1,600.3, which is 26,445.6 on the CPU, 114.3 on the 2D graphics mark, 7,382.6 on the 3D graphics mark, 2,853.1 on the memory mark, and 25,764.8 on the disk mark. Okay. All right, so let's get here. I want to show you this. When I tried to install the AMD Radeon stock driver that I downloaded directly from Dell's website, I got this error message no matter what I did. Even after I reset the PC and I did a fresh install of Windows, I still got this error message. Very troublesome, very disturbing. However, you can just download the driver from AMD's website and install it, and it works fine. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Okay, next I want to show you the Alienware Command Center. Mixed feelings about this. When it works, it's fine. However, it doesn't save any manual settings you do for fan curve or anything like that. You can switch between thermal profiles, and there's several of them. There's quiet, there's battery saver, there's performance, there's balance, etc. There's 5 of them. And the only ones that I really think is worth using would be the balance, quiet, and high speed. Okay, high speed ramps the fans up to 100%. So I would use that if I was gaming or video editing or anything that was heavily intensive. It worked fine. It kept the temps down, but it sounded very crazy. So it's good to have a pair of headsets on and play some music, right? And you drown it out, right? Nonetheless, I want to show it to you because when I first boot up the computer and used it, it was working fine. It did do a couple of downloads. If you try to start it prematurely, when you start up the machine, it will give you a message saying it needs 30 seconds or whatever to load, which is very annoying, right? Also, it's very cumbersome to get to certain places. Down here makes it very easy to get to like your overclock, your thermal, your power settings. Also has Dolby Atmos, which was pretty good. Made the speakers sound much more spatial and vivid, right? However, I'm not going to say it's the best speakers, but it does a decent job. It just lacks a lot of bass, right? Nonetheless, when this doesn't work, you get error message, it locks up, it causes a whole host of issues. Everything is tied into this. If you delete this and don't want to use it, you lose a lot of functionality such as the profiles for thermals, power, your theme, lighting, everything, right? So you cannot, it's a necessary evil that you have to have on here. But again, it's bloated, right? And there's other things, support assist and other plugins for this, the OC clock. I could not overclock anything on here, so I don't even know why that feature is there, but I could not overclock anything. So I'm gonna be honest with you, I tried everything and I could not overclock it, right? The status that you're seeing it right now with no games in the library, well, the computer had an issue and I had to reset it. And that issue was, I told you earlier, the audio was staticky. I tried reinstalling the driver, I got no audio, so I said, hey, let me just do a fresh install because I didn't really put much on here. I did have some games on here. I had God of War, I had Halo Infinite, I had Spider-Man Remastered, I had Halo Wars 2, things that I play, right? And the performance, no problem, right? When I'm playing a game, this thing handles it. If you put it on full speed, it keeps all the temps in the lower 80s and sometimes border on the higher 70s. So when it comes to gaming, performance and cooling, as long as you're plugged in and tethered, this is excellent. If you're untethered, forget about it. I mean, you get 50% of the performance. That might be an exaggeration, maybe 75 to 50% of the performance, and it tanks horribly. So do not try to play any AAA games with this. Now, you can play older games, like I played Red Alert 3. Command & Conquer handles that fine on battery. But anything more than that, past 3-4 years, you can forget about it, okay? So when I reset everything and I tried to find Alienware Command Center, it was nowhere to be found. So I said, okay, I don't know what's going on. I found the .msi file, that said Alienware Command Center Suite. I tried running that, and it errored out. I was like, okay. I went onto Dell's website, downloaded Alienware Command Center, tried to run it, and it got to a point where it says it could not complete installation. I'm like, what is going on? I had to go to the My Alienware app, which for me is not helpful at all, but the My Alienware app, and it has a little thumbnail of the Alienware Command Center. When I click on that, it takes me to the Microsoft Store where I download it, and that is functional and that works, but that also has to install add-ons. And I got one of the add-ons working. There's a second add-on I tried to install, and it errored out. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why that's going on. It is extremely frustrating. I just want to give you a heads up that if you go and look at the reviews for Alienware Command Center, if you're not already familiar with it, this is not a good piece of software. I'm just ruins the entire experience. And I think everything else is tied into this, right? The AMD Radeon driver that is stock on here, the Realtek driver, everything communicates with this. So if this goes down, if this errors out, you can forget about it. And you cannot uninstall it, because even if you do and you try to delete everything like I did with Riva Uninstaller, there's something still on it that you cannot get to, some hidden root directory somewhere, and it never goes away. Residual still stays on it. However, you can't obviously start it up because you installed it. Now, with that being said, let me just go over briefly the hardware, software review points, and I'm going to close out. All right, so let's close out, okay? Hardware, we have display 17.3-inch, 4K 120 hertz display. I think it's an excellent panel. I had no problems with it. I can tweak around with it, calibrate it. It's an excellent 4K panel. It plays 4K content wonderfully. Again, no issues. I can change the DPI if I want additional screen real estate or whatever. Excellent panel, no problems on that, right? CPU, when it's plugged in, is superb. Great performance, no issues, right? RAM, very fast, no problems, great RAM. SSD, same thing, fast, no problems. Gen 4, excellent, right? GPU, the Radeon RX 6850 MXT, excellent performance. I was able to play everything at 4K and get anywhere from 60 to 100 frames per second on 4K. This did phenomenal in regards to playing games. Battery life is great. No issue with the battery. It's a 97 watt hour battery. And because this is the all AMD Advantage laptop, you get the benefit of power efficiency, right? Which means you can get up to 8 or even squeeze more than 8 hours if you lower everything down, right? The Wi-Fi plugged in is great. When you unplug the Wi-Fi, it is terrible, terrible. And the LAN port, great speeds on it, no issues. So that's mostly the hardware. Again, the keyboard as well. Excellent mechanical keyboard, great response time, great travel. Doesn't bottom out. Love the keyboard, but there's no numpad, right? Which I don't understand because this competitor has one. So Dell, what are you doing, right? Up top, there's some intake grills that pulls air in. Again, all of this helps with the cooling, so I greatly appreciate that. Also, the power button here, the alien head, you can actually turn that off. I've seen some people complain because they couldn't turn it off. That can be turned off in the Alienware Command Center, all right? So I just want to give you a heads up on that. Software-wise, gaming, no problems. Everything I threw at it, it handled it. I had no issues, right? Now, remember, I had to use or download the driver and update it. It had a driver on it. I could not install the latest one from the Dell website, but the driver on it was fine. But when I installed the driver from the AMD site, it was even better. So no problems with gaming. Everything I threw at it handled it. And if it couldn't handle that 4K, I would drop it down to 2K and it would be no problems. This GPU and CPU work together very efficiently. You have smart access and all these other functionalities you get with the AMD Advantage ecosystem. No problems, right? However, that muck switch, man, that dynamic muck switch is annoying, but it grows on you and you get used to it because you can anticipate it, right? That it will happen, right? But it would be great if Dell adds that feature as manual in the Alienware Command Center, okay? Productivity, no issues, was able to run all Office Suite, no problem, no stutter, no lags. Even ran G Suite, no problems, no stutters, no lags. No issues. Web browsing connected to that. Also, web browsing was excellent when I was plugged in. When you unplug, you will feel the performance degradation when you web browse. Things will load up very slow. Okay, sometimes things won't load up at all. And I'm like, what is going on? Very, very disturbing. Media consumption, excellent. I was just playing for you the trailer for Black Adam. Excellent. No problems with video consumption. Plays audio, no problem. Audio sounds pretty decent. However, with these headphones here, the audio is wow, beautiful, right? This mouse also tracking wise, excellent, right? So media consumption, you will enjoy it. It is a powerhouse when it comes to media if you get these accessories as well. Um, Video editing, excellent. Excellent video editing compared to other devices that I had. I would say the Lenovo Legion 5, we have about 32% faster rendering performance in regards to video editing. No problems with video editing. It handled everything as long as it was plugged in. If it's unplugged, you will get some delays and some lag when you video edit, especially when you try to do an output. Oh man, you can forget about it, okay? Lastly, the Alienware Command Center application needs a ton of work. Matter of fact, it needs to be scrapped and you create another one from the ground up that's more intuitive. And then if you have a driver issue or some kind of issue and you try to reinstall the driver, forget about it. Either the driver will not install or it will install and make the problem worse. Even after you reset it, and when you reset it yourself, not coming from the factory, when you reset it yourself, you try to install the AMD stock driver, Radeon stock driver, forget about it. If you try to look for Alienware Command Center, it's not there. You got to get it from the Microsoft Store in order for it to work. You cannot download and install it from Dell's website. So, long story short, I love the bag, the headset, and the mouse. I love the hardware in this thing. I don't like the weight, right? The webcam up front is atrocious. I forgot that, but it does have an IR sensor, so Windows Hello works good. It's not as snappy as other implementations, but it does work. Okay, sometimes it may take a little bit for it to detect my face, but it works, right? So I'm not really going to ding it on that. It works. However, most of the issues is software-wise. That creaking on the lid is disturbing. Lack of a numpad is disturbing. No SD card slot is what it is. And the weight, forget about it. However, the battery is excellent. And as long as the thing is plugged in, it flies at whatever you throw at it. With that being said, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Lastly, I do like this this coating that they have on here. It feels like a rubbery, almost not rubbery, but feels like a matte touch. It's very smooth. It feels very good in the hand. 4K stream is gorgeous, but hit that like button if you enjoy this. Share this video everywhere. Subscribe so you can check out more videos. I have another device that I purchased to replace this thing, and I know that one would be way better because I bought its sibling previously, but this has to go. All right. See you in the next video. Peace.